And now...
And now, hello, Hugh.
Hello, Dan. Sorry, I lost myself for a minute.
Where are you?
I'm right in front of you.
Is it too early for you? What's going on?
No, it's fine. I've just, because I got the painters
It's because we went for lunch today, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a good chat.
You had some tacos.
I enjoyed that, yeah. No, it's good to have a time, spend a quality time with you, not just sitting here and fucking running around.
Wanging on about billboards.
Yeah, no, it's good.
We ate tacos.
They were delicious.
We had a non-alcoholic drink.
Yeah.
We're grown-ups.
Yeah, mate. It's a good job your friend Neil wasn't there, because apparently he drinks quite a bit.
Neil likes that taco place as well.
Does he? Yeah, but with
we had
8
margaritas in there and beers in there last time.
What, lunchtime? No.
Classic Neil.
Right, today we have got a legend, haven't we?
We have got a legend, and we've got you as well.
Yeah. Okay.
We've also got Mary, who's another legend. So 2 legends and Hugh. It's amazing.
So Dave Dye said, and a lot of people said, why has Mary Weir never launched her own agency? Because she really is, she's amazing. She's a force for good. She's a brilliant talent. You know, she's great people. But, you know, there's so many great things. So I suppose we might find out. But I think we want to just also get behind all of her work. She's done with a lot of the work with Damon Collins, particularly the Make Poverty History, which is just mind-blowing how good that 3 words are. Those 3 words I even put my teeth back in. And lots of other stuff, The Economist.
I can't wait to talk about the Make Poverty History stuff.
Yeah, it's just like, it's mind-blowing. So,
you think how far and wide that went. That is like, it's probably one of the most iconic. It's up there with the Just Do It.
I'm just going to say, like 3 words, Nelson Mandela saying them in Trafalgar Square.
It's just
stuff of dreams. We can still dream.
Well, let's go get her.
Yeah, okay, right, off we go, bosh. Mary Weir, copywriter extraordinaire. Welcome to Behind the Billboard. So I was going to put lots of different things there, and I just thought that's better because we say lots of things about lots of people there, but I just thought that everyone talks about it as this sort of amazing copywriter. So thanks for coming along today.
And we've talked about your work on the show with other people quite a lot, so it's been
that is flattering.
Yeah. Not just like literally in the last
this
2.
has been a long time coming, this one, so we're very excited.
We were going to say it's a bit of a crime you've not been on because it's been so long. So we offer flapjacks as recompense.
Yeah,
is that enough?
An excellent flapjack. I'd give that Trustpilot 5 stars.
Oh, do you know what? I might actually start a scoring system for your flapjacks.
Yeah, we stretched it a bit recently. There was too many things going on. We've gone back to basics.
They were a bit crumbly for a while, weren't they?
Yeah,
and
I don't like. I like the sticky.
You stripped back the coconut and the
you can get
cherries
coconut bits as well.
Oh, coconut.
You know, if you come back on, or if you buy the book. Right, we've got to do some Mary facts. So
facts.
This is where we say lots of lovely things about you. You can't say anything. Mary wrote possibly the most...
Unless it's not true, and then you can go, that's not true.
Yeah, or just interrupt. But you did write possibly the most important endline in the history of advertising, Make Poverty History, for Comic Relief in 2004. A line and movement that involved Richard Curtis, world leaders, and saving lives. Very loosely all involved together as one great big brilliant thing. And it really is the stuff of dreams. When you read, the more you read about it, the more you go, wow. And that came from someone's pad that we all sit on in front of every day. So that was amazing. I think when you got Nelson Mandela in Trafalgar Square, I think you've said these words in front of a Make Poverty History poster, reading the line to crowds and cheers, you know, you've made it. It's literally like... your mum and dad are definitely going to know what you do for a living when that happens.
Was that a defining moment for you?
Do you know what? It wasn't, because it came quite late on in my career, and I had already I either gone freelance or I was working remotely, I think, or anyway, I was up in Suffolk, coming in occasionally.
Right.
And I wrote the line on the train with about 4 others or 5 other lines, not many, unlike that thing where you go, I had to write 200.
Yeah. You could have said that.
I could have said that, couldn't I?
We'll come back to it in a bit. But so that's obviously, I mean, you probably don't really need to say any more Mary facts apart from that, but we're going to throw some more in. You've created award-winning work for some of the most famous brands in the world. You've featured in D&AD's copybook as one of the world's greatest copywriters, and you've worked for some of the giants in the industry, Dave Trott at GDT, Paul Arden at Saatchi's, David Abbott at Abbott Mead Vickers, just to name 3. And you live in rural Suffolk where... with more children and animals than are strictly sensible. Those are your words, not ours. So are those animals and children bigger now?
They are. Some of them are dead. Not the children.
Okay,
they're
good.
fine. The animals have moved on, and the children. They've all left home.
Oh, really?
The youngest, who is 24, is in China doing a year of kung fu at a Shaolin temple. So
Wow.
I don't know whether he'll be coming back.
Oh my God! I never thought we'd be talking about that today. Is that for real?
That's for real. Yes.
Does that come from you or your hubby? Or?
I think I think the youngest of four. I mean, I have two children, two stepchildren, but they've been very close since they were very small. So he is the youngest of four, and I think he's perhaps just quite life curious and wants to find out why he wants to do things before he just does things, like we just did things. Didn't we?
I assume he was into kung fu before he went to China.
No, not really. He's always been sport.
I'll go off the China.
He was very sporty. But he was also very musical, very good languages, and he was doing chemistry at university. So he had lots of strings to his bow. But I think it was more the philosophy. He got quite into reading about why you do things. Young people are much more considered than I think we were.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, I went to Manchester University. I'd never even been to Manchester, know anything about it. Like, now we're going, do you like it? What do you think of the room? Would you like to sleep here? Do you want me to come live next door? It's like, fucking hell. I just rocked up.
I know.
With a bag, with a rucksack. Hi. We're in Manchester now.
Anyway, so you must tell us what's Mary Weir doing at the moment in Suffolk? Because we had a little chat the other day, and you were open. So I was trying to do some chat, and Mary was in an open plan office, which we then both sent each other the poo emoji. I think like poo. But are you in somewhere? Or are you at home?
Well,
what's the vibe?
I was thinking about that because I remember you said that you're going to ask about what you're doing now, and that one you sound like a spy. I kind of don't really want to say who I work for.
Oh, that makes it very exciting.
Oh, that's GCHQ, 100%.
Not because it's MI5, but
she's on a massive pitch.
Because I tend to work behind the scenes, and I do appear on pitch documents and.
What, with a pseudonym?
No, with the actual name.
Just a number.
But I don't kind of
009.
ally myself with anyone because there's confidentiality. You're working, there's a lot of Chinese walls, so you're working between things. And I just think it's best not to mention anybody.
No, it's good. No, it's interesting because...
quite boring.
Because you can't break the Official Secrets Act. We know. We know.
But then do you spend, out of interest, without giving anything away, because we were talking a bit about working practices and whether some people have offices open 3 days a week and hope you're at home 2 days, or do you prefer being at home the whole time? Do you like being in a place?
Yeah.
Have you got a vibe about that?
I was always one of the few extroverts, and I really enjoyed being in an office and working with someone or people. Yeah. I've always found my natural inclination is to come up with things while I'm talking.
Right.
But after 15 years of being alone in a house, a big house with no one else around working, I've sort of developed a bit of an introverted approach, whereby now when people talk to me and go, so we need to change the time, what do you think? And instead of going, I think we should do this, I go, I need an hour and I have to go off and do it. That's a complete change of not personality, but way of working.
No, I find I do that. And then I get off the phone and I go, I need to tidy up the shampoo bottles are in the wrong order, or the dog, and then you're going, I've got this terrible
distraction.
Yeah.
Is that change of working, has that come from being in the countryside and getting yourself away from it all? And
necessity, really. I mean, I moved out. I mean, the great thing was that Peter Souter was my boss for a large portion of the final part of my career, the most recent part of my career, and he was fantastic when I had babies, and I said I'd like to do a 3-day week. Unheard of those. I'm bearing how old my babies are now. Yeah. And he was like, fine, do it. Great. Work from home 2 days a week. And he was so ahead of his time. And Abbott Mead was very ahead of its time as well in terms of, you can have babies and we know you're going to be brilliant. You're going to be better when you come back. There's none of this rampant sort of misogyny, I suppose, that I read about, which I've heard of people suffering. Didn't have that at all. And so I wanted to move to Suffolk because I'd met someone and we needed to move to Suffolk. And I said, can I have a sort of an attachment to the agency? I think I had a retainer, but I can still work for other people. I think that was the deal. Sounds rather too good to be true.
Sounds brilliant.
It's amazing.
So I just worked from home, and it was early days of the internet, not early days of the internet, but early days of people, actually being able to. Fortunately, our village, which is a very small village, does have a school. So we had the internet way before most rural places did. So, I just used to send scripts rather than being in person. I think people rather preferred it, really, because it didn't have some argumentative person saying you should buy this.
Yeah.
The scripts would just turn up
in someone's
quantity, and they go, well, this is nice. So that worked well.
Great.
Yeah. But I did miss, and I do miss the buzz. And so now I do a bit of both. I go in and and I'm in the office, and things are much quicker because obviously by the time when you're working from home, you type away for 5 hours. In 5 hours, a lot can change in the agency. They've suddenly gone on a new campaign, or they've dumped your endline, or they've got a new team in or something, and you come back with your work and they go, we've moved on, So you're catching. Sometimes it's good because you need to have time. Sometimes it's better to be in there and you can be swift on
Do you
your
think
feet.
that's a change in agency practice as well? The fast-paced world of advertising has got faster because of the...
Much faster, yes. The general chaos has not changed, but it's you've just got to be a lot quicker to solve it. It used to be a bit chaotic, but you had plenty of time to be chaotic and make mistakes.
I remember I was working on the John Lewis pitch with Chappie, must be a year ago, and exactly that. We'd go, right, so we'd be working remotely, but in our own houses. And we'd be halfway through a half of an afternoon trying to write the scripts, and you'd get a note going, right, stop. You haven't fucking started. You just briefed, and it was really weird.
Yeah.
And it isn't very... it's not a very healthy way to work.
It's not very conducive.
And you don't get to... You go like that deep, and you want something...
Do you think it comes down to the change in formats over the digitization of format and social and display, and then... programmatic and
I mean, there are so many different sizes and shapes, and
it's not just TV, radio, and poster anymore. Some print,
and it's how they work and the dynamic versus the static.
But you're still after. What reassures me is that you're still after that big line or thought or song or something, but they just want to then it's the sort of crazy, and then they want to get it quicker, and then they want to just spread it across everything. Anyway, listen, right, we've got to ask about you
and the billboard at the end of your street in rural Suffolk. What we got?
So can people see that? Will people be able to see
they'll be able to see it.
If you describe it, Mary.
Right. So what we're looking at here is a very quiet little country lane, and a couple of dogs actually there as well, but my dogs, and a blue recyclable bin on the end of a driveway, quite clear to see. It's bright blue and big, and stuck on it is a poster, I suppose you'd call it a poster. It's part of a poster, and it's an end line. It says it's 30 miles an hour, and that's the 30 in the actual red circle for a reason. A great line. Can
I just say, so is that your line?
It is my line.
So Dan, do you know this?
No.
So Mary wrote a brilliant TV ad when she was at Abbott Mead, where the child has been sort of knocked over and broken.
Dead, basically.
Dead, basically, yeah. And then she comes back to life, and if she'd have been hit at 20... she wouldn't have been killed. She goes, you'll kill me at 30. It's really harrowing. It's brilliantly done.
It says, if hit me at 40%. Hit me at 30 miles an hour, and there's an 80% chance I'll survive. Hit me at 40 miles an hour, and there's an 80% chance I'll die. The other way around, actually. So it says, hit me at 30 miles an hour, there's an 80% chance I'll die. Hit me at 30 miles an hour, there's an 80% chance I'll live. And she comes back to life, and she sits up and kind of gasps. It's quite an iconic. It's really amazing,
and that's why it's 30 for a reason. So was that kind of weird for you to see that?
It was. It does happen quite often that I go to the doctor and I did organ donation once, and I see posters of that from 10 years ago.
Really?
So it does happen quite often.
But this wheelie bin sticker, was this put on your bin by the council?
No, I presume it's somebody else's bin. It's down a quiet road, and they do have a bit of problem because people walk their dogs and their children and their bikes, and cars also go down there, and it's designated a quiet lane. But so somebody obviously got this sticker
it feels
and
like
stuck it on their bin.
I live out in Hampshire, Surrey Hills, and we have the same thing. But it's something like the neighbourhood watch distribute them through your letterbox, and you go, put this on your bin, and it's like control the speed in the village, and there's 20 mile an hour power zones in our village, and you're just like, well, it's like it's for that same thing.
As a poster goes, it's brilliant because we know what it's saying. It's just too ironic that it's your ad from all that time ago. It's like someone putting your most famous bit of work on your gate.
Yeah.
Also, it is deep as Suffolk, almost Norfolk, so it's not like we're just on the outskirts of the suburbs.
London.
It's a long way out. But it's a great. Most posters, the positioning is very important. I would say it should work in situ, not just work. And that is a classic. The person who owned the house obviously got the sticker or thought it was a good idea and stuck it on.
I reckon it could be bigger.
It could be bigger.
Yeah. I mean, if it was, then it could be a bit more ad shell size. But I've got to say, it's of stuff we've seen.
I think it's good.
It's pretty good. Right. Gosh, we're in. We're up and running. Right. First billboard. Of course, it's brilliant. It's Mary Weir. It's brilliant. Like we've had either a lot of liars. They go, can't remember. God!
No. What they say is, I can't remember, but I think it was this one because it was the. It's a good one. Yeah, that you remember the shit one, don't you? But you don't want to say.
Mary. So this is TfL Starvometer.
Starvometer.
So I have read a bit of background to this, but please tell our listeners that is there a bit of a story here?
There was at first. You just remember it as being. It was one of the first posts we did. My partner Damon Collins and I. And I just remember it got in the book. That was lovely. So you kind of remember that. And then when you were saying, you need to know the story behind it, I did remember the story behind it, which was we were very young. We just started out and I was at FCB where most of the older people, thank God, were drunk most of the time. It was fantastic because they'd either not be there to get briefed, so we would get briefed, or they would be briefed, as happened with a lot. They were briefed and then they'd forget that they were briefed because they were briefed when they were drunk or before lunch. So
Brilliant.
We got quite a lot of excellent briefs, and this was one of them. These were the posters that ran outside stage.
How are we going to get the best brief? Stay sober.
Stay sober. It's true. Damon and I, when we started, said, let's not drink. I think it might give us the edge.
That's going to be one of your tips at the end. Just don't get pissed before lunch.
Don't get pissed because everyone else will be. People are not like that anymore. This was the mid-'80s.
Yeah, go on.
So we were briefed on this and we did a variety, and I think you've got some other ones that we did in the campaign. But this one, everyone went, that's great things. And we were very junior and we were sent off. We chose we chose the photographer, we chose the model maker, and they were all kind of well-known. And we fucked it up.
How did you?
Exactly. How can you fuck that up?
But it looks so. Just so the listeners know, it's a meter which is in the shape of a spine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a skeletal meter. So instead of the actual pole, it's a spine.
Yeah, it's got no meat left on the bones.
Exactly, and the head of the meter, the old-fashioned meters you don't see anymore, is slightly skull-like, and the red penalty thing hangs out like a tongue. It looks very much like a dead meter. If a meter died, that's what it would look like. It's amazing, and it's a fantastic model. That was not the model that we made.
Okay, right.
Damon and I blame it. I'm bringing Damon in for all the blame and excluding him for all the credit. Damon and I briefed a model maker and we said, it should look, you know how they were covered in sort of grey rubberized material. It should look as though a very thin meter, so it could, you kind of see the ribs under the grey. And anyway, it appeared on the day of the shoot and it was a bit rubbish. It didn't look like a skeleton.
And was that your first view of it as well?
Yes.
So on the day of the shoot?
So the photographer went, I don't know what to do. I think I can do something with this. I'll make it like a sort of misty fog, like Jack the Ripper kind of London.
Oh, no.
So we had misty fog with a thing that didn't look like a meter and didn't look like a dead thing.
It's even weirder. Yeah. It's getting weirder.
And I can remember, the first sort of, well, it probably wasn't the first, and it definitely wasn't the last, but the kind of breaking sweat where you realise you've made a horrible mistake and you were spending money and this is all. So we brought it back and they were very kind. In those days, people were quite kind to juniors and they didn't say, you're fucking idiots, you're fired. They went, it's not working, is it? We can't really run this. We'll run the other two. Anyway, somebody, and I want to say it was someone like Ray Skelton, Anita Davis, people you may not have heard of, but they were top people in their day, possibly still are.
Yeah.
Said, they were our kind of group head, said, you know what, this is too good an idea to let slip. I don't know what the client thought. The client was expecting 3 ads and only 2 turned up. They're like, sorry. I don't know. In those days, clients were, all right.
Yeah, just 2 then.
Quick, tell them for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. They said, this is too good an idea. If you can make it for, I don't know, let's say £500. I don't know, £1,000. Very little money. We're going to make this because it's a really good idea. And we had a friend who brought his book in called Kim Saunders, who was a very young photographer. Again, I'm sure he's still around and doing great. He was our age. And he took us to his studio once when we were, maybe we had a job, and he was a great model maker. I mean, he was just one of those he even had a unicycle there which he could do. He was just talented at everything. Wow. And I said, Kim would be able to make this and photograph it. So we went to him and said, you can make this and photograph it, and it's a good poster. It'll stand you good. It'd be good in your book. Yeah. And he was like, I don't know if I could make that model. I'm not really a model maker. And I said, you really can. And he did. And he just made it, and it was fabulous. And he shot it, and that's his studio. He had a brick wall studio in Islington. And he shot it, and it ran.
He made the model.
He made the model.
Got it, because without knowing that, I remember seeing this in the book, and going, wow, it's just so simple, so clever, beautifully executed.
But you didn't know any of the pain that came on the months before it.
But also, that's because I was just listening to or reading one of Dave Dye's podcast with Jim Riswold, which was a written one because he died, sadly. And he's a genius, and he was telling a similar story, of something that is iconic. I mean, his Lou Reed ad for Honda scooters back in the 80s or 70s, probably, I don't know when. And it's just a work of genius. And it was just a catastrophe from the moment it started till the moment it finished. It was just a wig and a prayer, and everybody was just trying to drag it to some kind of life. And now everybody would go, that's brilliant. So that's the lesson I would learn from this is, thank God for the kindly people, our bosses, because we couldn't have done it, who said, give it another chance. Yes, you messed it up, Perhaps one of us should have been there to oversee it, perhaps, whatever. Doesn't really matter. There's no point in pointing fingers. Let's get it made. It's a great poster.
But I think you're right. But then it was part of, so I'm just going to jump to the other two, because it was a campaign, wasn't there?
Yes.
And so this next one says, will you have trouble getting away from the office tonight? And it's got a car with a clamp on.
Yes.
And, the underground. That would still run today.
Yeah.
Because it's still, and there's another one with a sticker.
Yes, these were very sort of iconic sort of motifs of dread that you would see coming from your car from miles away. You'd see something white on the windscreen, a massive. They used to put this
do not move.
It said, "Do not move," I think, or stop, or something like that.
They still see them. Or the worst things when they the thing just picks your car up and just takes.
You've seen that at the airport. If you're on the drop-off areas of the airport, they'll just come and move your car. It's funny, it's gone.
But it's still. I mean, I don't have a car. I hire them, but I get the tube and the bus everywhere, and it is still. That's a really. Those ads would still work.
Yes.
Today. I mean, the meter thing, I suppose, because it's on.
We don't really have meters now.
Permit thing, but the sentiment.
Oh yeah, it's an app.
It's an app.
Everything's an app.
Yeah.
But the sentiment is you could probably do something with an app or
funny
a phone.
Enough, so this is relevant to the Economist app. We're going to look later on, but I'm having my house painted at the moment. So every day, my brilliant painter, Tracy, all right, all right, come on, wake up, here, I'm here now, where's the flapjacks? So she comes in, so she goes, permit. Okay. So then these fucking things, it's like a fortune.
Over visitors permits.
Yeah, because she goes right outside.
Street.
So our neighbour gave us a load of ones she hadn't used, but I'm on the app every day, and it's up to 20 quid a day.
Really?
Yeah.
20 quid a day? That's more expensive than a car park, isn't it?
It's mad. So anyway,
you feel the pain.
I feel I can starve that one. So that was your first sort of foray, I suppose. And so we're going to go now to
some vodka.
Yeah, some vodka and flapjacks. We thought would be a good mixture. GGT. Yeah. How do we say this?
Zamoyski
vodka,
Russian vodka, which was quite an unusual thing in those days. Funnily enough, I mean, this also got in the book the same book and year as the Starvometer, because what happened with Starvometer, bless the lovely people who let us make it, we then got a job offer on the back of that poster, which Dave Trott saw on the way to work on the tube, and he was berating his teams for not bringing him good books of young people. Right. He said, "I just seen a fucking ad on the tube. Find out who'd done that. It's brilliant." Anyway, it turned out to be Damon and me, and of course Damon.
And it was Starvometer.
It was Starvometer.
Brilliant.
So our book went in. Now, actually, full disclosure, Damon's father was Ron Collins, you may know this, who was obviously very brilliant and famous and an absolute icon and hero of mine, as well as the person I works with, father. So he actually knew Dave. So he was kind of like, oh God. Dave went, oh, well, that's Ron Collins' son by weird coincidence. But that, believe me, Dave never did anybody a favour.
No.
And we got in on the merit.
But that was, he saw the poster. He
saw the poster.
He didn't know the names of the people involved in it.
He said,
there's no nepotism there.
No, not at all, not at all. So he saw the book, and we were hired. Well, hired is in, you come in on $6,000, which even then wasn't a lot. We'd just been given a rise at FCB, but yes, we were offered this. We were offered 3 jobs actually.
Oh, really? Where else?
BBH we were offered as well, and also JWT.
Wow. Anywhere with 3 letters.
Anywhere with 3 letters. Whenever I had 3 letters.
Was it all on the back of the same?
I don't know whether it was. It was a perfect storm. I don't remember looking for a job. I don't think we were looking for a job.
Your name was obviously out there.
It must have been. Yeah. Maybe people noticed. In those days, the poster could go up in London and people would notice it.
Yeah. In the industry, there people were
in the industry. Yeah.
I remember at the time GDT was the place to be.
Yes.
Dave Trott was the well, he still is. He's an icon. Isn't he?
He's an icon.
How did you find it? Was it a little bit scary?
It was totally terrifying. I remember we were kids and we had no illusion that we knew what we were doing or anything like that. But we were used to getting, I don't know, 10 minutes or an hour or a day to work on things. Actually, we were used to more than that, 2 days, because it was a fairly relaxed place, FCB.
Yeah.
And suddenly we joined, and I remember on the Saturday I got a big envelope in the post, and I pulled out and there were like 7 briefs. This is on the Saturday before we started on the Monday. And it had, these are your briefs for the week, and these are the days we'll be reviewing. And it was one every day for the next 7 days.
Wow. I thought you were going to say the opposite. You had loads of time. No.
What his policy was, you had 6 weeks on every brief to write the ads, but everybody reviewed once a week, and and like 6 or 7 teams would work on the same thing. So you were competing with each other. You were competing over the weeks to the best one, and then at the end of 6 weeks, the best one, he knew it was the best one because he had every team working. So you had, I can't do the maths, but an awful lot of work before you pick the one. So, this was big stuff. This was like the Cadbury's Cream Egg campaign, the Next TV for the How Do You Eat Yours, and I don't know, the Mazda campaign for a new Mazda. These were huge campaigns, and there was every day, and we had like a day to do it. And then once we'd done that review, we had to do it again.
Did you and Damon sort of, scuttle away into a little corner? Did you have your own office?
Well, we all had our own offices, but that was the other thing. It was a bit of a kind of wife-swappy swingers situation in that we were not meant to work together. Everyone had their own board with their own work on it, and it was all up in a row. I started working with Damon for the first few weeks so that they could assess whether we were going to get kicked out after a trial period, but almost as soon as you go, then they would put you with other people. So Damon and I were not working together. We would work with other people. Wow. And scarily, they would put you, I was working with the terrifying, he's a really good friend of mine now, but the terrifying Paul Grubb, I thought he was terrifying then. Dave Waters, Dave Cook, these, amazingly senior, brilliant people. Wow. And I would be sitting there scared to open my mouth, not because they were particularly scary, but because I knew nothing and they were board directors.
Wow.
So that was all very frightening. But Damon and I did this poster together, and we used to, had to do so many ideas that they brought in these A5 pads. I think they're A5, half A4. Right. And Damon learned very quickly to draw in this fantastic sort of GGT style where you do a really cool line drawing. And we would just do 30 ads for each thing. And we'd come in with our little pile and everyone else would have their little pile. There were 4 teams maybe. We'd hand them to Dave. No words were exchanged. He'd have this pile like this and he would just go...
Right.
And that was the yes pile and that was the no pile.
Yeah.
And then he'd hold this up and go, who did this? Yeah, this is the one. And that's how it was done. And
this one we're looking at, so what we're looking at for our listeners is, what could you describe it?
Well, it's a hammer and sickle. The old, I can't think what Russian...
The USSR.
Yes, it was the USSR then, back in the late 80s. And it was a hammer and a sickle and a single star, I think, was the flag. And this was a vodka and it was triple filtered, which apparently is a good thing, but that's all we knew about it. And it's a poster. So, we couldn't do a sort of David Abbott explaining the history of why it's whatever, and we couldn't do a logical thing. So we just turned the hammer and the sickle and the single star into 2 stars into basically a smiley face. Kind of looks like he may have enjoyed a
And like
drink.
you said, the Russian vodka wasn't
a thing.
Right? So it was
No, so it was one of the only Russian vodkas, I think. I mean, I guess Smirnoff is Russian, is it? But it hadn't really gone in. Smirnoff was a bit more of a kind of cool international thing. This was a Russian vodka.
It's so funny that because like where we're living in now and smiley faces everywhere, you did a smiley face, but it's fucking cool. It's like, I remember seeing this. I actually thought this morning it was in the 100 greatest posters of all time book, but it's not. But it's sort of that ilk. But it's it's brilliant. There's no words, and I've sort of read a bit about your ethos, nothing extra. So was it hard for you not to put words on it, or were you quite happy?
No, I am a copywriter who loves the fewer words. I mean, I think I have said before, like 3 words optimum, really. And I do try, and I don't try and stick to it, but if you can do it in 3 words, that's great.
Yeah.
I am absolutely happy to have no words at all. Makes my life easier.
And so this would have...
I'm terminally lazy.
This would have helped your reputation no end, I suppose. And we're going to jump to Saatchi's now.
We're going to jump to Saatchi's.
Because you spent how long at Trots?
It was probably 4 or 5 years, I think, before Dave was ousted, actually, in a sort of creative coup,
was
I suppose.
Was that a BST something?
He then started Baines Fair Sharky Trot, which didn't last long. Yes, he was, but he was sort of replaced by Tim Mellor's Who to Come, I think, from Saatchi's. So we kind of then went to Saatchi's.
Is that when GGT? Sorry, we need to move on. Was that longest ever name? Is it TBWA Simons Palmer GGT? Remember, it became the longest one in the world because someone swallowed someone.
Someone, yeah, that would figure.
Anyway, so you go to Saatchi's, and we had a look at it. The stuff you worked on some pretty glamorous stuff like British Airways and stuff, but perversely for this show, because we're interested in posters and billboards, we want to talk about recycling. So I imagine you and Damon never thought, oh yeah, we're going to do a brilliant poster that's going to get in a book for the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea.
No, never did think that. I can't remember how quickly we wrote it, but it was fast.
Really?
Because between, BA took up all our time.
Did it?
And it was incredibly work intensive and actually quite painful. So sometimes you'd get these nice things that came in and you just grab them and do them fairly quickly.
So the headline says, politically correct, ecologically sound, incredibly lazy. All black on yellow. And at the bottom it says, Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea now picks up recyclable rubbish directly from you.
Which in those days was radical.
Yeah, it was a new thing, yeah.
It was the start of everything. And of course, Kensington and Chelsea would be the first to do it. But at that time, the idea that A, recycling was new, and B, they would pick it up from the door was seen as like quite the news in itself, really. So that just went up all over the borough.
It's great. It's just such a lovely rhythm to it, isn't it? But it says its point. Were you surprised at the reaction it got?
Yes, I was really, because I suppose, we'd come from the sort of GGT background where if you could be rude to people in a jokey way, that was quite a nice thing. Never insult your audience, obviously, but if you can sort of be a bit blunter or a little bit more cutting through the bullshit. And, there's a big division in advertising these days. There's a dare we suggest, which Low Howard Spink was a great one. And to be fair, so was Abbott Mead Vickers.
Yeah.
There was a lot of the sort of like copywriting for Sainsbury's and stuff, and it was very, very middle. And I am absolutely a fan of that kind of writing. But there was also the iconoclasts like us, and even BBH was an iconoclast in a way. They were kind of sexy and they were glamorous and they were style over facts. There was the people who were rejecting the kind of rather English posh way of doing it.
Yeah.
And this was also very Saatchi's. Saatchi's was another blunt speaker. They were a great place. You could do anything there. You could do the art, or you could do the craft, or you could do the really sort of down to the earth stuff. But this was in that vein. We saw ourselves as sort of slightly young upstarts. So it did surprise me.
It's actually a great poster and very surprising. Right, we're now I suppose we would call this your spiritual home, Abbot Mead Vicars. We're going to talk about abbots, and we are, of course.
How long were you at Saatchi's for before A&B?
Again, that must have been about 5 years. Yeah, so it was, yes, short. The first ones were quite short, a couple of years at FCB and then 5 years and 5 years. And yes, and then the duration.
Longest stint, yeah.
Dan, how many times has The Economist been mentioned on this show?
We're probably at 4,000-ish in 80-odd episodes.
Yeah. I looked at Peter's and
so
he had
iconic.
the whole gamut.
It's funny because when we started doing this, we
did an Economist special as well.
We did an Economist special, yeah.
And
we
yet
did.
They still come.
Yeah, we thought that would be it. I think we had Annabella in, who's lovely, and she's from South America, and we thought, she definitely won't. Economist.
She's done.
We seem to go for at least a season and a half. When we do the favourite billboard at the end, we're going to get to yours. But it seemed like
everybody's favourite billboard.
Well, it was like I can't pick one. It's the entire campaign. Well, hold on, that's 25 years long. We can't.
25 years, millions. And as you say, they go round the world as well. Yeah. That was an incredible campaign. I mean, that was probably, it's a poster campaign. I mean, yes, they did TV, but nobody remembers the TV particularly.
No.
It was a poster campaign that everybody knows now and then.
Yeah.
That is genuinely global, despite the fact it is a written campaign, which is an achievement in itself because it's such a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Although, when we had Paul Belford on the second episode, we were going, because he did the light bulbs, you know.
Oh yeah.
And we were going. It was that sort of moment where you're going, trying to take it away from words.
Yeah.
And Dave talked a lot about that. It's a really interesting period, and you know, it's like The Economist is like a sort of planet of posters, isn't it? You just so much you can talk about. Anyway, so we're going to talk about this one.
In fairness, we also talked about how hard it is to get them away, because of what's gone before as well. It needs to be every single one needs to be better and better and better.
I mean,
the
writing has to be above the writing in The Economist, and the people in The Economist are bloody smart.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're setting yourself a standard that's way above most copywriters' level anyway, which is probably why I didn't really write a line for mine. For this one.
This one struck me again this morning because it's paint.
Yes.
And my house is being painted. So we're looking at a colour chart, and it's just the gag at the end of well read, which is a little bit like Marco Antonio's book. you know the book which is called Read All Over, you know, the one about the kind of. But tell us how you got to this.
I mean,
colour chart.
To be honest, Damon and I don't know whether it was because of our background that we come from, whatever. We weren't anti-economist. Nobody can be anti. They're fantastic, but we didn't particularly want to just spend our time writing economists. That sounds so arrogant.
No, but it's a lot been done already.
I bitterly regret it because everybody else I know has like 20 of them and we have 3 because we would then, we didn't turn it down, but we didn't compete with it because we wanted to do our stuff. We wanted to do new stuff. We wanted to do stuff that hadn't been done before. And we felt we want to start our own campaigns and stuff. So this was we were set in those days. You could actually get given the brief. Dave Trott believed that it was good to do that, so we were given it. But we didn't really want to just write clever lines. I'm opening myself up for a fantastic insult there. And so we thought, well, what's different? You know, what could be? You know, what do we want to say, and how the fewest words possible we could say it. So we thought. I think we probably were painting houses at that time. We were relatively starting out in life. And we thought a paint chart would be great. And of course, we wanted to not have the Economist logo. I think we just wanted to have it without the Economist, but just on a poster, and hope that people would deconstruct it. And somebody sensible said, "Don't be ridiculous, you're putting the logo on." But you know, we just wanted to do what could you possibly take away as much as possible and still be an Economist poster.
I think there is an argument to say, because some of them they just had the purple patch or the fly on the wall, you know.
Actually, my argument would be if you put that well read in there in the white out of thing and just said well read, you'd know.
I tell you, you could
a much better idea.
I tell you, could mock it up for us.
But then that feels like the brand will also have a No, well,
because it'll be in.
It should be there.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Right,
It's amazing.
You've got two more.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to read this one out. This is great. To err is human. To is unacceptable.
Yeah, that's a classic.
I mean, do you know how these come about? Because I imagine it's a while back. But when you look at it, do you go, oh yeah? Because I sometimes look at stuff and go, oh, I distinctly remember Adam saying X and I said Y, or I was at home and I had to, do you locate your ideas like that?
No, not really. I mean, I think with TV, with a really good TV idea, I do remember like Yellow Pages stuff with the gags and stuff. You can remember exactly how the gag came about,
how you got there, so
how
the
you got there.
workings
Yeah,
out
because
of it,
quite often, especially with TV, it's a two-man,
and it's also rooted in something real that you've been through and experienced.
True.
Exactly, but with lines. Sometimes even now I write a lot all the time, and people go, "Well, this is the line they bought of yours," and I go, did I write that?
Right.
Oh, because you were in a stream of consciousness.
Yeah, because it comes
like,
through. You know, you feed all the stuff in, and then you go to sleep, or you do stuff. You wake up, and it comes through, and you're writing. It's almost automatic writing. I mean, it's not. It does go through the brain, but it's if you're doing it fast and you're doing a lot, it can sometimes miss out the conscious brain. I'm not saying that did particularly. I mean, you would, I suppose, you're looking for. It's almost like a crossword puzzle, or I mean, I'm big on crosswords, and you are, you're just going through all the words that mean mistakes, all the words, and you're just, our brains are such that. Words like poetry or music, aren't they? They just stick in, phrases stick in your minds, which is why quite often when we speak, it's very hard to speak without recourse to how you've already spoken, or cliche or hackney. It's very hard for people to speak without being cliched, because our brains start feeding us the line that they know from years and years of hearing.
It's a bit like AI, isn't it?
Well, it's deep-rooted memory,
we
right?
are AI.
We're becoming like these
very slow.
Because
you probably could feed a brief in.
Yeah.
Please don't do it.
I wonder if you could, feed in all of the Economist ads into...
And say, write some new ones.
Yeah, write some new ones.
Someone's got to do that.
Because we had so many guests on.
And then show Dave Dye and see what he says.
Yeah.
He would cry.
Dave AI. We were going to get him on for that. Don't forget that. We're going to do that.
No, yeah, we're going to do that.
But because we've heard so much from so many people, not just about the work and how it came about, but the process of how you get it to the top of the pile. So did you, when you did these three, there's one more, did you just put it on the pile that went into David Abbott's desk, or did you have an account man who you account woman, who had, your back? Who was it who waited? It's actually Peter Souter, wasn't it?
The order that you put it in, where do you put it? And who's putting their stuff down first? Yeah, it's the sport of that.
I think
he would
where should it go in the pile?
Peter said he had the secrets for sale. I think he got someone to put it on the top because they knew the account person and they snuck it in. So, it'd be the first thing he saw. So, did you have any...
We had none of that.
None of that, okay.
I mean, I think...
Just let your work talk itself.
Yeah, but also, when you are a team, you creative direct your own stuff as well.
Yeah.
As a writer by yourself, and I work for other creative directors, I do creative direct, but I tend to let them choose. Whereas we would have definitely picked out Paint Chart as our favourite, because we wanted to be different. We wanted to do something differently. So we would have... so the third one, Don't Be Limited Company.
It's very funny.
I mean, it's nice, it's short, it's succinct. What you want to always try and do, I think, is draw on something that people already know. So, some language. The idea is to make people feel clever when they read it, not to make them think you're clever.
Yeah.
If they think, oh, that's clever, then you've lost, as far as I'm concerned, that you're just showing off. Or
I'm clever because I get it. If I can explain it to somebody else,
if you go, oh, that's
it.
clever, as in like I feel clever, and it gives them a buzz, then I think you've won, because you've enrolled them. So that's the thing, is to always, I feel, to always give them something, so they bring something and they feel better for bringing it. None of if an alien came down and read any of these posters and had never been on Earth before, he wouldn't understand most of them, because he wouldn't know what a meter was.
Take me to an Economist reader.
That one.
There's so many good. I've got the book at home, and I often, if I'm working on a gig, which
There's dinner parties one as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Would you want to sit next to you at the dinner party?
Quite often, if I've been told, it's a bit like, we want to campaign a bit like The Economist, so just get the book down and just start feeling, the vibe. But it's very hard, even because the minute you you sort of get too close to the Economist, they go, no, it's...
But this is like, we had someone come to us recently and say, well, we want to do something like Specsavers. And they've got 25 years of using that line. You've got all of this that goes behind them. Like, you're not just going to get that. That's not going to happen. You're building a brand. You're a startup. Yeah. You don't just get, should have gone to Specsavers from the start.
2 years of Specsavers, everyone thought it was a bit naff.
Yeah.
And then it's sheer persistence.
It gets into popular culture. It gets into football. It gets into referee. All of the stuff that we've talked about over the years. Like, you don't, and it's the same with the Economist ads as well. In isolation. Nothing, but with the body of work over the 25 years.
Well, it's the investment in advertising. Yeah. I remember when Adam and I started out, everyone said, just give us a tango. And it was tango because they'd done a lot of irreverent work, but then it would reach this absolute peak with Trev and Al had done the big orange fellas come up, slapped him.
Yes.
Then another one, then Black Currant, and you're going, fucking hell, how can it get any better? And then everyone just, I think it was a BBH actually said they just want a tango, which is kind of like, you can't, can you? Because they're tango.
They've done it. Exactly.
You want the next thing.
We want a famous grouse.
We want a famous grouse. That was that was actually famous grouse. Was the first work we did. At Abbott.
Right, Dan, how are we doing for time? We're good.
We're 15ish.
Yeah, okay. So we got 3 campaigns to get through. Minimum.
Do we need to speed up?
Well, famous grouse.
We've got a lot of great work though, so I think.
How did this happen?
Well, we turned up at Abbott Mead the first day, and they said, "Oh, we're putting you straight on a pitch, and the pitch is famous grouse." And I was like, "That's great." And Damon, we'd just come from Saatchi's. And Famous Grouse had been at Saatchi's for 25 years. Wow. I think it was the only agency Famous Grouse ever had. As soon as agencies came out, he went to Saatchi's, and that was it. And we had never worked on it because there was nothing to work on. It was some excellence in an age of change or something like that.
Yeah, sounds about right.
With a painting of a grouse. And Damien was, I can't believe we've got to work on this. It's Saatchi's thing. And I was like, well, A, we've never worked on it, and B, it's not Saatchi's.
It's not anymore. Yeah.
So we sort of sat down and we went to the brewery. In those days, the distillery, they take you up and they, and we were writing lots of clever sort of lines. We were at Abbott Mead then, so we needed clever lines and, sort of double meanings and sort of beautiful skies from the Scottish Highlands and everything. And Peter Mead, who is a genius, they're all geniuses, the 3 of them up there, but he came in and he looked at this and he went, "You know what? You fuck with their icon at your peril." By which he meant they are the famous grouse. They're not a skyline. They're not a mountain. Mm-hmm. They're not even a painting.
Right.
And he tootled out, and we thought he's right. So we just did a bloody great bird on a poster and said, "Make mine a large one." And that's what we did. And so it's, again, the writing skills are small. A large one.
Brilliant.
Make mine a double.
But it's brilliant because it literally, without now having a laugh, opening the floodgates.
It literally did.
But it is also rooted in our language, like you said earlier on. It pricks the memory consciousness of how you order your drink. So, make that a double. I'll have a large one on the rocks.
And it just pares away everything.
Yeah.
There's so much paraphernalia around whiskey, and there's so many master distillers, and there's so many mountains and barrels and, traditions and William this and Muck this. And we just took everything away. It was incredibly modern, actually, which is odd because it was literally the most old-fashioned advert.
Like you're saying, the sort of parlance, everyday parlance. How did you... were they... stuffed grouse? Were they real? Were they paintings? What were they?
It was at the time of Jurassic Park. When Jurassic Park first came out, you may remember, it was absolutely blew everyone's socks off, didn't they? Because they actually had dinosaurs. Yeah. I mean, now, it would be laughable maybe. But at the time, I remember going by myself to cinema and my mouth hanging over.
Yeah. The CGI was just incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, and I think Smoke and Mirrors or somebody in LA had done the work. So for the TV, we used the same technology as Jurassic Park. Right. For this, it was good old-fashioned retouching. A grouse has a neck about a third of that, quarter of that.
Right.
They're round, dumpy, very undignified, waddly things. They make hens look really regal. So Damon just stretched the neck.
I was going to say,
no one's ever seen a bloody grouse.
I was going to say, because
I've got no frame of reference for an actual grouse.
No, it's not like a swan, where if you made a swan with a short neck, they go, that's not a swan. That one is slightly closer to what one actually looks like.
And did you...
the whole eyebrow has been completely sort of...
But they're beautiful. And you won the pitch and they run the work of the pitch?
Well, there was quite a lot of people pitching because a lot of people wanted whiskey. It was very prestigious. And they spent forever trying to make their minds up who to go with. By that time we'd been working on IKEA and various other things, and we'd slightly forgotten that we'd even done this pitch sort of, 6 weeks earlier or 2 months earlier or something. Anyway, they I don't know if you've worked with any distilleries, but they're quite slow movers and they've been faffing and fluffing around. So they then went to the guy who actually was, I don't know if it was William Grant, but somebody who actually owns Famous Grouse, who is one of the famous Grouse Grants or something, and said, we've got all this work, we're not sure we did that. And he goes, I want the one with the big bird on. Let's do that. So
Thank you.
Our board rate came and went, yes, we just won Famous Grouse.
Wow.
We actually got a brown envelope of cash for that.
No way.
Yeah, that was probably the last time that happened.
And when you were up there doing the kind of the product research, they take you around the distillery, tasting, showing you all of these.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's great, though, because like you said,
It was a boring bit.
you wanted to make your mark and do something new.
The science of that is the bit where
the factory visit.
Yeah, and it came out at Christmas, and it was all over, the Cromwell Road. It was, it was good media buying as well, which you took for granted in those days. It wasn't made in such a big fuss, and the TV was a massive hit with this sort of weird music that we had designed.
I love that music, that Plinky Plonky
Plinky
thing.
Plonky. It was done by a very young guy who, again, people used to come with their music reels and stuff, and he came in and showed us the reel, and we said, can you do some music for this? We don't know what we want. And he said, well, he was a music student. He said, there's this instrument that kind of makes a kind of glockenspiely sort of noise, but sounds quite whiskey. So he did this tune. And it's been on it ever since, a variation of it.
I've still seen.
And every year he used to give us like very expensive bottles of wine for Christmas. He's only a young guy. And
because he's getting royalties.
He said, I bought a house from your campaign.
Really?
Yeah.
Good on him.
We did not buy a house.
I was going to say.
From that campaign. We got a small envelope of money.
Bro, you got a bong.
That's
We
incredible,
got a bong.
Yeah.
But we also got it was a good campaign, and it's still running. It's still running now.
Fair play.
People say, I'm working on, they've even given the grouse a name or something. I'm working on it.
Because they try and do, Anyway, so, we've got 2 more to do.
Sorry.
We're going to do anti-smoking, another seminal moment.
A moment of something that looks nothing like a poster. So if you describe it.
Well, I was trying to describe it this morning thinking it's where high fashion meets fags in a sort of way. And it's beautifully done, which is why it's even more sort of unnerving, because it's this lovely cream sort of stuff, you put on your face at night. Well, I don't, but some people do. And then a fag's been put out in it. And then there's another one where there's some ash in a sort of makeup bowl, which is actually an ashtray. So it's that kind of crash.
Yeah.
How did you get to this? Because it's at the time, now you see this, quite a bit. But at the time, it must have been like, oh, fucking hell.
It was quite radical. It was, as usual, it was a really good brief. Something like whiskey is a difficult brief because it's whiskey. And, this is a fantastic brief. We had a brilliant planner on it. A lady who, name I can't remember, but she was fabulous and very clever. And she said, we've got a new angle on smoking. It is really bad for your skin and it makes you look pale, and it actually, and she'd done all the research, the poisons
rooted
that
in
go
some
into,
insights into
it goes into your bloodstream and it actually damages you from the inside. Can't really say exactly how, but I can tell you the poisons that go into your bloodstream. I can do certainly other. So we had this great approach where young women were big smokers then, and we had a way to sort of get to them. So it made perfect sense, Damon and I, to just look at the Clinique ads. There's a lot of high beauty stuff, very pure, very gorgeous. And as you say, expensive, a visceral sort of like feeling of purity and cleanliness and
they're
beauty.
Also quite formulaic. So there's a visual reference for the public.
Yeah, absolutely. And these beautiful brushes, and it was like Irving Penn style, very clean, wonderful. And we just sort of thought, what a great car crash to bring the two together. The visual almost does it for itself. And we wanted to do long copy. And these were in tube posters, so they only ran in the tube station.
Where you got a longer
cross
dwell,
track, or down the corridors as you walked along. So we wrote long copy, and I was very into. I was doing Tampax print as well and stuff. And we were very into writing because by that time I'd sort of like developed a tone of voice where I understood about talking to different people in different ways, and so I wanted to sort of write about the way that Americans do. You know, they always kind of gave you a tone of voice. You knew who was talking to you, and you liked the person at some level. You liked them. So I wrote this copy to sort of parody the way that they would talk about, they would always say things like, you look you look radiant and beautiful, and we have these amazing things. They'd always have some lipocides, wouldn't they, in a beauty ad that are proven to increase the oxygen. So I just parried it all and made it about these. It will deliver toxins directly to the skin, and made the whole thing a sort of parody of that kind of rather sort of beauty fragile copy that you get. And I was so gratified because I remember going to Baker Street and walking down the corridor, and there was a woman standing there. So everyone's running up and down Captain Tubes, everything. She was standing reading the poster. Target audience, 25-year-old reading the poster and looking at it, and I was just like, I've never been so proud in my life, because that's better than a D&AD award. Someone had stopped in the rush hour and was reading the copy, and they were the right people, and it had a huge
you
impact.
Got Kevin Summers to shoot in.
Was it? Yes.
And was the set was it small, or did he make big models? Do you know?
I think it was bigger, larger than life.
Yeah, because they're so well done.
It's all models, including the cigarettes. That's what I want to say. Damon would have known better than me, because I didn't probably go on the shoot actually, but it was in those days the craft that went into it was quite something. So I think that would be a model. Although you would never think, would you? Really, that's a model.
I can actually read. We were talking earlier about not being able to read it. Right, I can. So shall I read a quick one?
Yeah.
So the first one, after cleansing, exfoliating, toning and moisturising, how about a bit of poisoning? Considering the care of which you choose face cream, perhaps you should consider this. Every cigarette contains 4,000 toxins, many of which blah, blah, blah. Wow.
Yeah.
You didn't write blah, blah, blah.
No, I didn't.
But that's lovely, isn't it? It's again, it tells you, it pulls you in like the visual. It has that same sort of subversion.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was.
They were everywhere. I mean, I remember in every awards book you'd see it go, "Oh, that fucking thing again." God, them. But
what I like is it's the antichrist of posters, in that it's got a tiny headline. The type isn't even black. I think it's grey. It's impossible to read on a computer virtually, but it worked really well. And I think if you can do something that's different and arresting, I mean, people would stop because they couldn't read the line unless they did stop.
And in terms of that format, it's at eye level. You can see it. You can stop and read it. You are stood on a platform waiting for your tube. So
I saw one.
If it was on a billboard, you're not going to stop and read it.
I still sort of can't believe it's 2024. So when was this? This would have been, I don't know, in the 80s, 90s.
I know, it would have been 90s. It might have been late 90s, early 2000s.
So you go, well, even then you're categorising, going, by the way, these are posters, but they're in high dwell, blah, blah, blah. I still see posters all the time, and I've gone past it and thinking there were like five headlines and copy and a QR code, and then someone somewhere just not advising a client, or a client's going, don't care. And you go, okay, fine, But anyway, it's just an aside. The sort of poor state.
I think it's different when there's things like this where it's information rather than here's our website, here's our phone number, here's a QR code, here's another headline, here is a sub headline, and here is a call to action. Jesus, what do you want?
I mean, this was just designed to scare the bejesus out of people, young women in particular, and it did genuinely have an effect, which is also very
right. So we're going to going from the sort of tiny to the enormous. Make poverty history. So you did start talking about this earlier. So sorry to cut you short a little bit, but we just wanted to go into it now. So Peter Souter was on previously, talked a bit about it, and lots of people have talked about it. But we're very pleased to have you here to tell us a little bit about how those three little words became, so sort of instrumental in, getting world leaders at the G8 summit to pledge an extra $50 billion in aid. Did you even have an idea that was what you're going to be involved in? No. Was it a little proactive project that they said, hey, Richard Curtis wants to do something? Was it like?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Richard, I know him not well now, but I've known him for a long time and I work with him on and off quite a lot. And he is just one of those people who will aim high, and you need someone like that. You need various things to get a great campaign through. And one of them is somebody who does not see problems. Relentless and just will do anything to get through and will not be put off by the scale of the problem. I mean, that is the first thing. You've got to aim high to get anywhere near it. And most people don't, because for very good reasons, it doesn't work. So, he was there and he had this ambition to make poverty history. It's not the first time somebody's done that, but he probably was the best person to do it. And he came into the agency, I don't know if he knew Peter already or whatever, but I didn't meet him. And Bridget Angier, who was the planner, and she's an amazing, amazing planner. And again, I cannot credit planners more for making our lives easier, because the brief she wrote was... She cut through all the kind of, we want to do this, we want the 16 sustainable whatevers, all the world of detail to make poverty history, to something along the lines of, we want to make world poverty a thing of the past. I mean, it almost had written, when I say it like that, it's like, well, no wonder you wrote that line. It wasn't exactly that, but it was something very similar. And so I just, and again, it was not a real job in that there was no money or anything. So I was going back up to Suffolk and Bridget and Peter briefed me. So I just wrote on the train on the way back. And I wrote, as I say, I don't think I wrote more than 8 or 9 lines. And I just sent them in. And Tim Riley was also briefed on it, of course. And he's a brilliant writer.
Yeah, he's been on our show.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably written my favourite economist ads.
Jordan,
and Slight Risk of Paper Cuts and all sorts. He's a genius. But we both wrote lines, and I just emailed them emailed them, I think, and didn't think anything of it. And then they just it just kind of took on a life of its own, as often happens when something is good. My line I wrote was, let's make poverty history, thereby ruining it by adding an extra line. And some genius crossed out the let's, and then Paul Belford got hold of it. And the first I really saw of it, because I was working on other real stuff, I suppose, I saw Paul's design with this brilliant design with the poverty lighter than the make history. And I was like, that's just brilliant. Who's surprised? Because Paul Belford is a genius. And then I would just keep getting these phone calls, and I was saying, it's appeared there's everybody's wearing this. It's all over this. Nelson Mandela's repeating it on TV, and then eventually on New Year's Eve once, a couple of years later, I was somewhere or other, and I got a text from a friend saying, Richard Curtis is on Jules Holland, later on Jules Holland or something, and he's just said your name as the person who wrote Make Poverty History. Wow,
that's amazing.
I said it's actually because someone was going, how did you do the line? He's, bless Richard, he said it wasn't me, it was a nice lady called Mary Weir, who worked for. And I got married not a few years after that, and Richard sent me a what's it called? A garter. It said make spinsterhood history. I was a second marriage, so I wasn't really
very good.
And he'd obviously got it printed, and the printing had made the elastic go. So it was about this big. I was holding up at the wedding, so I don't know how big he thinks my thighs are. But,
I had Bono wearing it on his arm.
Yeah, I mean, it was everyone, and there isn't a person you speak to who hasn't heard of it. I don't know what the saturation worldwide was, but this was pre-internet, and as far as I know, it went worldwide. And I just think it was a perfect storm. But I managed to get a lot of credit for,
for a train journey back to Suffolk.
It's amazing, though, isn't it? Because there is a bit of just on the back of somebody's pants there, which is, I bet you're chuffed to that one.
Yeah.
Bus side, obviously.
Then it spawned great. Exactly.
This is sort of like an echo to your meter.
It earns more in an hour than 70% of the world's population does in a day.
I mean, it's just it's phenomenal. I mean, just because Peter told us a bit about Richard and his sort of unrelenting thing, but you do need, when you talk about something, you do need a hashtag or a project name, or you can't just say, oh, we want to end this thing. You go, well, what is this? And then once people like you come along and do it, then it becomes
But it's
solidified.
also, I'm a great sort of exponent of doing something that unites people. And it's very hard. It's very hard to do something that isn't bland. It's nice to be pokey, but I think, there's enough division. And if you can pull people together, it's really, really hard to do, because normally when you're even something worthy like taking the knee or Black Lives Matter, somebody is going to be offended or won't agree or won't like the way you're doing it. And Make Poverty History was the one thing that nobody disagreed with. I mean, there isn't a person in the world who goes, actually, it works for me. I don't, even there's just nobody. If you can come up with a line that everyone goes, all right then. That's possibly why it worked. I don't know.
But it doesn't, because it's that clash of the words. Because like if it's like feed the world, you go, okay. But Make Poverty History is active. It's doing. Right. We better move on. But it's so
and a great way it's done, because you get rid of poverty and you make history. So it actually that's why I was looking at Paul. I was amazed. I work with Paul quite a lot, and I look at him and I go, it's all going on in there, isn't it? In the silence, it's all whirring away.
Right, we're going to have to close. We could talk about this. Well, we could have done a whole episode on this itself. But favourite billboard, Mary?
Yeah, well, I never saw it in the flesh. I don't know if I would have been quite young, I think, when it was up. It is for Rawlings tonic water, which I don't know if still exists. But it says on the bottle here it was established 1784, and there's a picture of the bottle with a glass next to it. And the headline says, "We knew how before you know who."
Yeah.
Rawlings since 1784. Well, younger people might not remember Schweppes' iconic line of you know who, but at the time it was probably one of the most well-known lines.
Yeah.
And this is a classic underdog ad where it
pokes a bit of fun.
It's true. It actually was established the year before, apparently, by Schweppes. And it's a brilliant bit of writing. And it was written by an art director, which is Ron Collins, who's Damon's father, who art directed and wrote it.
Great.
And he was, I know Damon when I used to read annuals before. I went to college with Damon to Hounslow Borough to learn to be a copywriter and art director, but I didn't know him. I just knew the poster.
Right.
So when I found he was on the same course, I thought I'd quite like to work with you.
Yeah. Hope it's hereditary. And
barring that, I might meet your dad, which I did, and he gave us a lot of good advice. So that's
great. And we're just going to close on advice, because I found this. We're not going to read them all out, but I found in the copybook you set 5 rules. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, can count about writing. So we'll put those on the website. But
the top one you should definitely read out right now.
Know when to shut up.
That's an odd thing for a copywriter to say.
Well, less is even more. I mean, Dan and I are always talking about less is more, but then we're talking about this sort of ethos of even less is even more. With the BA Windows stuff recently, some work which is just so well observed, the McDonald's drip of down the milkshake, there's too much still being chucked on posters, and exactly. It's brave. It's braver actually to put too much on, because people won't read it. It just seems brave to take things off, but and people now are so engaged and they have so much to say about everything that if you do something different, they will fill in all the gaps. People are mad on semantics. I mean, they'll go mad and analyze, and they will do all the work for you. So if you can
give them the credit. And I think that's the good thing about the economy. All of the economists has that we've talked about is you allow people to be on the journey with you, and then it will land.
This over explanation is in our culture is endemic. I find my daughters, we'll watch something and we'll be in 5 minutes. I don't get this. What's going on? Again, well, because it's a fucking 2-hour film. That's right. And by the end of 2 hours, and actually my sort of wife, when I say my children, it's me and my wife. But that, don't tell them everything. Yeah. Because then you walk away from
Take them on the journey.
Go,
You're not supposed to know it all in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Dan,
delayed gratification.
are we done?
We are. Thank you very much, Mary.
So this honestly, we did like an education, and sorry it's taken us so long to get you on, but thank you so much for all that.
Yeah, thank you.
You still got one flapjack left.
Good.
You don't have to.
I will.
You can take it for the train journey.
Take it for the train.
I will
all
take it now.
Wow.
I'm like, if you think about those last 2 campaigns we just talked about, like how doing good with advertising, that the making poverty history thing is that's nuts, but the kind of anti-smoking, it's just
and she is she's
some of the work that I've put out in the past, and I explain it to people in layman's terms. What do you do? Well, I make people buy soda. It's like
yeah. I'm just trying to stop people starving in the world, and I sort of did it.
What?
It's so good.
Stopping people putting cancer in their bodies, and I'm going to stop people starving around the world. Like, amazing. Oh shit! Yeah, we need to do.
And she's very so humble about it all, and so generous with the stories. That's just sort of perfect guest for the shows to just talk about the work, how they got there, and then what the future holds. It's an absolute honour to have had Mary on. So Mary, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Mary,
for coming down. It's pretty mind blowing. And thanks to our sponsors, Talon and Grand Viz, for looking after us as usual,
and our lovely hosts here at Soho Radio.
Yeah, so keep following us, keep liking us, keep messaging us if you want us to do
messaging us.
Messaging us. I'm going to put my teeth in.
You need to stop eating tacos at lunchtime.
Right, take care, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.